On this episode of Geek Dad Life, we have in hand one of the new retro real Ghostbusters figures from Hasbro. Hello everybody and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host Jay Glatfelter here, and I have a video that I did not expect to do anytime soon. I actually have in hand one of the new Hasbro retro Ghostbusters figures, carded, I assume exactly as it's going to be when it does hit retail in a couple months. Don't know if the COVID-19 pandemic is going to change that timeline at all, or the original timeline that they had planned. But a seller on eBay somehow got them well ahead of the release date and was selling whole sets or individual figures for higher than retail, higher than for me to want to actually buy more of the figures that I already pre-ordered at the retail price. But I definitely wanted to get one in hand to do a comparison video on my channel, so everybody at home that is curious what the differences are going to be between the original figure that I have here to the right. I have an unpunched example of the first release, first wave, first series Peter Venkman, and then to the left I have the new Hasbro retro re-release of the Peter Venkman figure. Side by side, you can see they are very, very similar at first glance. And again, you have to account for 30 years of fading here on the original figure, or even more than 30 years of fading. But given that fact, they look really, really close on just first glance. But when you look a little bit closer, you can see some major differences, like the shading on the artwork. It's a little more, looks like cell shading a little bit on the actual artwork of Peter Venkman. So this one looks more like a softer, like actual painted picture, and this one looks kind of like a cel-shaded version of that painting of the picture. The real Ghostbusters logo looks sharper than the real Ghostbusters logo that's on the original Wave 1 figure. So clearly, this is a recreation of that card. When these cards, like pre-computers and stuff like that, it was done a lot more by hand and then kind of copied and reproduced. This one is clearly like a rendering that was done on a computer of the original artwork and then put down to card. But all things considered, it looks really close just from a card back design standpoint. The way you can quickly tell the difference on these figures is in the bubble. So you can't really see it looking straight on, but we will do some close-up shots. But looking at it, the bubble for the grabber ghost is actually kind of a one-size-fits-all, because this actually looks very similar to the bubble that Winston would come with, because his chomper ghost has a much longer nose. So if you look at the side-by-side here with Peter, the new one and the original one, this bubble for the ghost sticks out way more than the original Peter Venkman. So the bubbles were unique on the original first wave figures, and Hasbro has opted to kind of do a one-size-fits-all, which accounts for this much bigger bump here for the companion ghost. If you notice too, the feet on the bottom jut out more than the original one. I think it allows a display easier just on card, which is nice. I am holding my breath a little bit that I have this original one just kind of sitting on its original feet right there. But I did want to show it to you in person. And then the other thing, which we talked about, looking at pictures of these at Toy Fair, the bubble, the figure holder, everything is a lot more involved than the original one. So this one's like very much like enclosed, held in place, where there is a tray for the figure here, but it's a little bit looser. There is a tray for the grabber ghost, but it's a little bit looser. There's a little bit of a tray that holds the proton pack in, but the wand and the neutron wand itself is loose, where here it is kind of fully contained and fully held in place, and the bubble actually comes out a little bit more for holding the proton pack together. So that's your main differentiator here. Other than that, it's pretty much like for like. You can see the Aegis 4 Plus is different there on the top right-hand corner. Mine is punched, but I don't think they actually have an unpunched version of it. So where you can see here that the hole is smaller and you see the little tabs where you can kind of punch through. This doesn't have any of those on there, and it is a little bit bigger to accommodate a hook to put it on. And then the Kenner logo, which I'll do a close-up of, has, safety tested and some more information under the Kenner logo, where here it's just the Kenner logo on the bottom. The font's a little bit different here on the description. The action zapping ray looks a little bit thicker on the accessories lined there. But, just if you had a rack of these on the wall, you just a quick glance, it looks pretty darn close, which is cool. So there's enough variances to hopefully make the people that might be upset that they're reproducing these figures to know which ones are which, while also giving us, the people that maybe can't afford the original ones or don't want the responsibility of trying to keep nice the original ones, or maybe want to open some up, which we're going to open this one up here on the channel to do. So looking at the back of the card art, it's very similar, which I know we talked about when these figures were first announced on the channel. So like pretty much like for like. You have the original prototype picture for the original wave of real Ghostbusters figures. You both also have the Shape of Marshmallow Man, the Green Ghost. Same descriptions. Font looks a little bit different. And then you have the directions on how to use the proton pack with the figure. The things that are missing is the Ghost Zapper, which makes sense. They wouldn't include that because they're not going to re-release that. And then, a lot of the copyright is different. You also have a different proof of purchase. And you also have the Hasbro logo now in the right-hand corner, which makes perfect sense. The other big difference here is the extra support on the hook. Hole hook. But that makes perfect sense because that'll kind of reinforce the card to hang on toy shelves. So luckily, we'll see less tear through on those hook holes. So there you have it. There it is in package. And let's open this figure up and see how it compares once it is out of the package. All right, now let's open this thing up and see how the figure inside compares to a vintage Peter Venkman First Wave from Kenner. So I know a lot of the mint on card collectors are probably cringing at the moment, but this is for science, or at least for the collecting science, to see out of the package how different this figure is compared to the original. So let's open this thing up. Out of the way here. I'm going to use razor blade. I don't want to just rip this thing apart. I do want to just take a moment to recognize this is the first time I've opened up a first series real Ghostbusters figure in 30 years. So, pretty exciting. And so yeah, this new tray holds everything just in one tray. So that accounts for the extra kind of bubble up here is to kind of connect the whole thing together. The original figures, it was all on separate cards or separate bubbles. Ooh. That falls right out, so that's good to know. Pretty easy. So let's start with that then. There we go. And let's take out the Grabber Ghost. Ooh, he is kind of gummy like the original. Last but not least, let's take out this Peter Venkman. It's much tighter than the original. Oh, wow. The holder for the proton pack is completely different than the original. But yeah, that's completely different. I would say the color's a little bit different too. It has a bit more of like a greenish kind of color to it, which I think you're seeing on camera. The original has the copyright stamp right there below the proton pack holder. This new one has nothing there, so no copyright stamp. So where is it now? Where does it live? Ah, it's going to be on the feet. So there you go. New trademark 2020. CPM, guessing Columbia Pictures. Oh, look at that. Same number there that's on the back of the card, 00081. Didn't hear anything about collector numbering, so I don't know. Maybe it's just what this specific one's going to be numbered. And then it's kind of hexagonal peg holes. The original had hexagonal as well. As you can see, I have a broken peg hole in here. But yeah, more differences there. You have it's kind of ridged up. Plus the copyright. These are just flat, but it still has the peg hole. So that's another difference. So a lot of differences right off the bat here. So yeah, already some big differences between the two figures now. So definitely a different paint color here. A completely different mechanism for connecting the proton pack in the back. So we're going to look at the proton pack in a second to see how different that is. Different placement of the copyright stamp. In terms of the feel of the plastic, honestly, they actually... it's a little bit gummier. Like this is a lot kind of gummier than I would say the... Well, no, maybe this... Because this could get hard over time too. So it's hard to tell, but that actually has a bit of... So they actually got the feel pretty good on the actual figure. I thought it was going to be a lot harder. The head seems to be a slightly different plastic, but again, not that much different. The sculpt is slightly different. Let me see if I can really capture that here in the video. It's ever so slight, but the face is thinner. The new one has it's thinner. It actually kind of looks more like the cartoon. So I don't know if they actually sculpted a new head sculpt, but it definitely looks. And again, like it could be a reproduction of the original tooling, because there's a lot of subtle variances that I'm seeing. So the shirt is different, has a lot more kind of ridges in the undershirt. The belt, the details are definitely crisper than the original one. Like this is definitely different. The little kind of walkie-talkie thing. That's a new sculpt. Yeah, and again, I'm trying to account for the age of this figure, but this definitely seems like it's a completely new sculpt. Because even here on the arm, that's a lot softer than this one. Now again, this is on a stand, so let me take it off the stand so we can get a direct height comparison here. And it is shorter. It is noticeably shorter than the original figure. I mean, not significantly, but noticeably. And yeah, I'm definitely it's a new sculpt. So while it is very close to the original, yeah, I'm pretty confident that this is a completely new tooled sculpt. So not just like the original, and they kind of retooled some parts, like, you know, changing where the copyright stamp is, changing the way the proton pack goes on the back. But there's so many subtle differences on almost every sculpted piece that, yeah, this is almost a complete, I mean, a completely new figure. Let me try to safely take this off here, because I don't want to break it. Yeah, I don't think there's any reused parts from the original. And again, I don't know if it's some type of transition from the tool. Maybe they tried to recreate the tool, but yeah, I think it's a whole new tooling. All right, now let's look at the proton pack, which now I know is going to be different if that whole mechanism's different on the back. And yeah, it is completely different. So the original, now this is like a second generation proton pack, because the cord comes out of the middle of the pack, unlike the original first series release, which is what this card art's based on, comes out of the bottom. So these all come out of the center. But as you can tell, kind of right off the bat here, it's a different color. The new one is a lighter blue. The cord is thinner than the original one. Now, where the figure, there's a lot of subtle differences. This one, not as much, even though you can see the original second version still had the nub for where the first series came out of the bottom. This one does not. And then on the inside, it's definitely using less plastic than the original. So it might be a cost-cutting feature. But yeah, the peg connector system is completely different. So the original one had these kind of two tabs that would then kind of lock it in place once you put it on. So these are very prone to breaking. This new one does not have that at all. So clearly that new sculpted connector on the back does most of the holding of the proton pack. And for the people that were kind of hoping they could use these proton packs on the originals, I don't think that is going to be the case. We'll see that once we connect it. Let's look at the Neutrona wands. It's a lighter green, definitely a lighter green than the original. I mean, it's noticed this is the new one, this is the original. It's noticeably greener or lighter in color. The length is about the same, but the stream itself is thinner. It's noticeably the new one is noticeably thinner than the old one. So I don't know if that'll make it even more prone to breaking than the original one, which was always prone to breaking. The connector to the arm, though, seems very much the same. The plastic feels very much the same. And then let's look at side by side to the... Yep, the Ghostbusters logo looks very similar, slightly softer detail than the original one. But very, very similar, aside from the mechanism on the back. Now, people ask me about the figure stands that I use. It's just the Kenner, the standard Kenner. So if you have a Star Wars one, it works. Let's see. And yep, so the new Foothole works with Kenner stands. So if you have existing ones, they will work on the new figure as well, which is a nice kind of added bonus there. All right. Let's go to the back. And this connects like so. And like, is it going to even be secure fit? And it kind of is, but it's not that secure. So it just kind of easily goes on and off. I mean, I would guess that is a design improvement, because it was something that will break eventually or can break on those originals. So that is an improvement. And then let's see. Let's put the pack on. I'm not going to put his hand directly on it because I don't want to kind of make it easy to get on and off. Well, I guess I have to hold it. Sorry, Pete. Looks great. Let's just put this pack, before I do kind of like final comparisons with the pack on, let's see if the new pack works on the old one. And nope, not even. It doesn't even hold on. So for those that were hoping it would work, it does not. I think, say if your stream's broken, maybe you can untie that little knot in there and then tie this onto an original pack if you have this. But other than that, it's not going to be much use with a vintage figure. Which again, hopefully, you know, for the people that were kind of griping about the originals, this now ensures the, you know, the collectors of the original figures that you know that difference. There's significant differences between both the proton pack accessory and the actual figure itself. It's a completely, while it is very close, almost every sculpted detail is new or softened from the original. And the logo itself looks like it's applied on differently as well. Let's see if I can get there we go. It's a little bit bigger. Looks good though. I like it. All right, there you go, side by side. Hopefully you're capturing the differences or seeing the differences here on camera that I'm seeing in person. So for the collectors out there, this is a unique figure. I think there's enough detail here to make it truly unique to the original, which I think is a good thing for, you know, collectors of the original figures. I think so now it's like it's easy for those who you know, collect them and try to kind of have them retain their value or increase in value. You know, hopefully they're not disappointed. And for those that just want the figure, not want to pay the, you know, crazy price that the originals bring these days, I think that it's a win for them as well, because, you know, it is close enough that you're going to feel the nostalgia of the original by getting this figure. Looking at the companion ghosts, it looks very much of the same mold, but it looks like a darker blue plastic, but very similar kind of consistency. And again, easy way to tell the difference if the color doesn't set you right. The original, which is this one, is a flat footed. There's nothing there, and the new one is recessed on the bottom, which saves plastic. And the original has the copyright there along the spine, 1984 Columbia Pictures, right there. And then the new one does not have a copyright on the spine. And it doesn't look like it has a copyright anywhere. So there you go. There's your easy way to tell the difference between the ghosts. So there you have it, my very thorough, unthorough, however you want to call it, review and comparison of the new Hasbro real Ghostbusters figures. It is a very close approximation of the original, but it is very different once looking at it up close. But again, I think at the retail price of $14.99, I think it's fantastic, and I think people are going to love it. If there's the only gripe that I would have is just the eye application looks a little bit, the paint application on the eyes look a little bit sloppier than the original. But the variances in sculpt and the different way the proton pack attaches doesn't bother me at all, because this shouldn't be an exact replica of the original. It should kind of stand on its own. It should be its own toy. So that way collectors of the originals, you know, don't feel like they, you know, miss out or maybe even get confused, or even people that are trying to buy the originals don't get confused hopefully don't get confused into buying, a new toy when they're thinking they're getting the original. So I, for one, am perfectly happy with the fact that this is essentially like a completely different sculpted figure compared to the original. I know some people are probably going to be upset that the proton pack does not work on the vintage figures, but again, I think that's for the vintage collectors. I think that makes them happy, while somebody that wants to just spend $15 and have a toy that works exactly like the original, pretty much, I think it kind of hopefully makes everybody happy. I, for one, am happy on both counts. I think really excited to have these. This guy doesn't want to stand up very much. The new one. I, for one, am super pumped and excited for these figures. I think the current situation with coronavirus is going to affect the way we probably get these for those that pre-order them. Hopefully they get delivered relatively on time to the original date. The fact that, somebody had these ahead of time hopefully brings hope to those that are hoping to get them on the original date. I know it's a lot of hopes I threw in there. But, them being actually on toy shelves, that's a whole nother story. And hopefully maybe on the other side of this pandemic, they will be on toy shelves along with all of the other amazing Ghostbusters toys that are coming out. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Geek Dad Life. If you like what we do here on the channel, hit like, hit subscribe, and click on that bell icon to be notified when the latest episode of Geek Dad Life drops. Check out all the other videos that I've done on Ghostbusters so far, including a full review of the Wave 1 figures from Kenner that are all going to be re-released by Hasbro, just like this Peter Venkman that we reviewed here today. I also have all those figures on pre-order, so once they do all come out, I will be reviewing the entire set then. But I couldn't pass up the chance to open one of these up and do a comparison, side-by-side comparison to the original real Ghostbusters figures. Hopefully you enjoyed this as well, and we'll see you all next time. Hasta luego, and goodbye.